Hi everyone, today I'll be showing you how to make a quick and delicious orange olive oil cake, and it only requires 6 ingredients. It's inspired by this book, Jamie Oliver's 5 Ingredients, and the 6 ingredients actually are citrus. I've got a variety of oranges, blood, regular, including a lemon here. For protein we've got eggs and almond pulp from almond milk we made before, polenta or cornmeal, honey, and olive oil. This cake is gluten-free and higher in protein than most recipes. It also doesn't use any butter or refined sugar. The first step is preheating your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't delay this step. It should only take 10 to 15 minutes to prep everything before you can pop it in the oven. To make the full recipe, you'll need an 8-inch springform pan. If you just have regular pans, that's okay too. I'm going to do a half recipe today as I only have 5 oranges. So you'll line the bottom with parchment paper and then grease it with olive oil. If you have a brush, that makes it cleaner, or you can always use a scrap piece of paper or your hands. The springform pan just helps it come out at the end a bit easier. The next step is to juice the oranges. I'm going to go ahead and use the juicer, but you can just use a variety of simple bar tools. At a music festival, I once juiced 2 cases of lemon with just a fork and spoon. So you want the juice of about 3 oranges or half a cup for the full recipe, and combine that with about 1/3 cup of honey. I've got a bit of older honey that I want to use up, so when the glucose and water separate, you get crystals, and all you need to do to make it liquid again is put it in a hot water bath and stir it, or you can also do it in the microwave. Just 30 seconds of heating at a time and stirring in between. It turns out that the juicer is worth its weight in counter space. With just 1 large orange, I was able to get the half a cup of orange juice that I needed instead of the 3 that might have been needed if I were to do more manual methods of extraction. Just wanted to update you on the honey. It is now nice and liquidy. Crystallization is actually a sign that your honey is pure and raw. Honey never really goes bad, so no matter how bad it looks, it can be salvaged. So I'm going to reuse this saucepan and just add half a cup of the orange juice, plus 1/3 of a cup of honey, and I'm going to simmer that. While our syrup or sauce is simmering, we're waiting for it to thicken up and reduce. And don't forget to stir it occasionally so it doesn't burn. We're going to move on to the cake itself. So earlier I mistakenly said that there was 1/3 cup of honey in the syrup. You only actually need 1/4 of a cup. And then half a cup goes into the cake itself. In the original recipe, weights in fluid ounces are given. It is a more accurate way to cook if you have a kitchen scale. Starting with 9 ounces of honey, about 3.5 would go in your sauce, and 5.5 would go in your cake base. But this way we're just simplifying it, so that is half a cup in the cake and 1/4 cup in the sauce. You're going to combine the honey with olive oil, and that is 1 cup of olive oil. I've got two here side by side. I don't know if it's easily going to be visible, but on the right, we have a higher quality olive oil. It is darker green, and if you were able to taste it, it's got more grassy and peppery notes. Because it's an olive oil cake, we're going to be tasting the flavor, so use the best quality olive oil that you have available. So now we're adding a cup of olive oil. I'm going to do this twice because this is just a half cup measure. And then we're going to mix this mixture for 2 minutes on high using a hand blender. If you have a stand mixer, even better. Now that the olive oil and honey are well emulsified, we're going to check back on our syrup. So it's gotten a lot thicker and reduced in volume, so we can take it off the heat and just set it aside. The next step is zesting the oranges. I'm going to get out my microplane tool. It looks just like a rasp you find in woodwork shop. You could also use a fine grater. An exciting update. I'm going to do now the whole recipe. I've been talking as if I were going to the whole time, so there wouldn't be confusion, but originally I didn't have enough oranges. I only had half, but since the juicer is so efficient, I have overcome that issue. So I've just finished beating the zest and eggs into the honey and olive oil. Next, I'm going to be folding in the almond meal, cornmeal, and orange juice. So you'll want 2 cups of ground almonds, and a heaping half cup of cornmeal, as well as a 1/4 cup or 1 to 2 oranges juiced. And then we'll be just gently stirring that up with a spatula. We can put the mixer away. Clarify and offer options for those last 3 steps. For the polenta or cornmeal, you want something that's more gritty and sand textured, instead of something like a corn flour or different type of cornmeal that is more powdery and flaky in texture. Also, if you are short of 2 cups of almond flour or almond meal, ground almonds, as I was, then you can substitute coconut flour. The caveat with that is coconut flour absorbs liquid. So for however much coconut flour you're adding, I added half a cup, you would need to replace and add extra moisture. So that could be juice or oil or a combination, but since I added half a cup of coconut flour, I'm going to add an extra half a cup of liquid to my mixture so it doesn't get too dry. And instead of buying the ground almonds, you can make it from scratch if you don't have leftovers from almond milk, and you're just going to be using the milling blade of your blender or the dry cup of a Vitamix. Okay, I've transferred my cake batter into my prepared spring form pan, And now I'm going to put it in my preheated oven. Before I mentioned it was 375 degrees, but it's actually only 325 degrees. 325 degree oven. And we're going to bake it for 40 to 50 minutes. Our orange olive oil cake has now been in the oven for approximately 40 minutes. Let's have a look to see how it's doing. Emerges from the dark oven, and so far it looks pretty good. We've got golden brown color, slightly darker edges that are pulling away from the pan. So we'll turn off the oven and let this cool for about 10 minutes before we transfer it onto a wire rack. With the sauce that you made earlier, you can put it in the oven to warm up. It's off but still quite hot inside. And although we are using a springform pan, it's not a bad idea to gently loosen the edges with a knife before you transfer it for best shape so it comes out all in one piece. And lastly, with those oranges that you zested at the end, you can slice them up to serve up alongside your cake and sauce. Enjoy!